Member Chang? Here. Member Chowdhury? Member Cohen? Member Collins? Here. Member Kristen? Here. Member Maribel Martinez? Here. Member Nunez?
Here.
Member Ong? Here. Member Pimentel Radamini? Member Rodriguez? Member Martinez? Member Silverstein? Member Smith? Here. Member Panacea? Here. Member Silver South? Member Vandenecker? Here. Member or Co-Chair Van Valkenburg? Here. Member Walton Smith? Member Williams? Here. Member Wood Hegner? Here. Member Zamora American? Member Goff? Here. We got a short one for a quorum.
All right, so whoever comes in will know to make sure so I would just say, if someone's coming to sit next to you, if you can make sure you just walk them over to the clerk, just so that we can get everybody's, their information, make sure we can call roll properly. So I want to thank all of you very much for coming to our meeting. We have a lot going on today, so we're going to be kind of brutal about time. So anybody who's speaking and presenting, be shorter. And the reason is we want to get to the groups being able to learn more about everybody else's work, and we also have some decisions to make about the big events that we want to do over this next year. So with that, I do want to just give a very special thank you to the Office of Women's Policy. They've been just great finding, working with all the board offices to make sure
he's not your average. And this is never is the exception, but always is the rule. but labeled feminism, womanism, insanity.
suggestions that there's something inherently wrong with these suffragists. And so over time then there was efforts, like I said, to kind of cover up these relationships or hide them. But many of these women had been in these partnerships for years, and they continued to live and love together. Here's a couple of local examples I wanted to highlight. This is Lillian Jane Martin was a Stanford psychologist, and she was a highly educated professor at Stanford. Fidelia Jewett was a public school teacher in San Francisco for over 50 years. Together, they worked in the National American Women's Suffrage Association and the College Equal Suffrage League here in the Bay Area. Jewett was the life partner of Lillian Jane Martin, and together they lived from about 1900 to 1933, so 33 years together until Jewett died. When Jewett died, Martin donated a bench in her partner's memory. Here's the bench. And she had Jewett's name inscribed on it, and she asked that it be placed in Union Square. And she was a prominent, wealthy woman, so she was granted this wish. And then after she passed away, one of her friends put her name on the back of the bench. And the bench is now in Golden Gate Park. It was moved in 1946, but it stands as a testament to their life and their love. And my favorite story, this is where it is, by the way, in Golden Gate Park. And my favorite story is actually about Dr. Mary Sperry and Gail Laughlin. Dr. Sperry was college educated, earned a medical degree, and worked at the hospital, the Children's Hospital in San Francisco. Laughlin, on the right, was an attorney and was a prominent member of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, and eventually in the National Women's Party she also worked. They met when Laughlin came to California to work on the campaign for the vote here in California. And Laughlin was actually working with Sperry's mother, who was the president of the California Association, Women's Suffrage Association. But Sperry's mother got really upset because the two became really quick friends and moved away together. They moved to Denver, Colorado, and they both practiced their professions. Laughlin as an attorney and Sperry as a doctor, and lived there for about 7 years. Eventually they came back to California. Sperry's mother was ill, so she came back to California to help take care of her. And they lived together in the Sperry family home. Everything was kind of so-so. Laughlin continued to work on the California campaign alongside Sperry's mother. And in 1919, Dr. Sperry passed away in the influenza epidemic. Now, before she died, she had left a will, and in this will, she actually willed everything to Laughlin. And this upset her mother. So her mother took Laughlin to court and immediately started saying that this wasn't fair, that Laughlin was mannish and domineering, masculine, and suggested abnormality. She even outright said in the court documents that the two women shared a room together and shared a bed together, implying lesbianism. Laughlin ended up getting very frustrated during this case because Sperry made the point, the mother of Sperry made the point that perhaps she was mentally incompetent. Sperry was during her life when she willed away her resources. So Laughlin demanded that this be changed and stricken from the record. And eventually the situation was resolved and they dealt with the case accordingly. Now, Laughlin carried Sperry's ashes with her for the rest of her life. She had been willed it. And even though the family memorial says that Mary Sperry is buried there in Stockton, next to her mother and her siblings, Sperry is actually buried with Laughlin in Maine. And when Laughlin passed away, she asked that both of their ashes be placed together under a single headstone. So that's the local story, and I think this is really important because it highlights how important these relationships were to the suffrage movement and to moving women forward in the campaign for the fight for the vote. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you so much for that. And I don't know if there are any quick questions now that we know what a Boston marriage is. I felt like a t-shirt coming on. Awesome. But I'm wondering, any quick questions that folks may have for Wendy? No? Well, Wendy, let's give her another big round of applause. I'm so just really grateful to you for coming back. So we're going to then, if we can, we're going to move on to this next item, and this is to receive a report from the Registrar of Voters relating to the Voter Choice Act. This is item 7A. And what's really very exciting about this is that we're going to have an opportunity to talk to Shannon Boucher, obviously, who's our registrar of voters, who we've all come to know and just appreciate deeply, and Tamara Raspberry, who's the Assistant Deputy Secretary of State. And I saw her here today outside, and I was like, God, what are you doing here? This is so random, and I forgot, oh, no, she's not random, she's here for us. And the reason I just want to say, she's been traveling the state, literally, to talk about the Voter Choice Act. So what we're going to do is they're going to give a presentation that's going to overview the new voting systems here, and then we're going to get feedback from the ROV about, because she's got some questions for you. So you guys, you want to put your thinking caps on. She's going to ask you to help her find some locations that are going to be good voting centers. And then lastly, I want to take a couple minutes at the end of this presentation to agree on or get some feedback on some outreach strategies that we're gonna try. So Shannon, are you starting or Tamara? All right, Tamara, and give Tamara a big round of applause. She really is amazing, and they're going to give us a lot of work to do. So take it away.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor. That was a very, I hope I meet your high expectations. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. My name is Tamara Raspberry, and I am Assistant Deputy for Secretary of State Alex Padilla. And we spent a lot of time, obviously, in Santa Clara County recently due to the passage of the Board of Supervisors to approve bringing the Voters' Choice Act to Santa Clara County. And just a point of personal privilege, I'm very excited to be at this particular group today. Where's Allison? Oh, she and I talked earlier, and I was telling her my life story, and I started off as an Assembly Fellow in the state legislature, and my very first bill that I had signed by the governor was a study from the Commission of the Status of Women to study wage disparities for women and men in California. And to demonstrate that, right before the Assembly voted on it, we gave men the mini-size payday candy bars. We gave the women the full-size payday candy bars to say you deserve your full payday today. And so here I am back with a group from the county that represents women's issues here in the county. So just thank you for this opportunity. So the Voters' Choice Act, I don't have any slides. I'll just say just look at me because I don't have any slides. But the Voters' Choice Act was passed signed by the governor in 2016. And what it does is when counties adopt it, and we made it optional for counties to adopt. 5 counties adopted it in the first year of implementation. And it expands voting opportunities to voters. So we know that vote by mail is very popular among voters. We're seeing about 70% of voters vote by mail, 30% still vote in person. And so we're talking not a majority of voter participation, of voters who come into a polling place to vote. But for those that do, this is really going to change how they vote in Santa Clara County. So with Voters' Choice Act, the neighborhood precincts model, that's removed, and what we create are vote centers. Vote centers, it's 1 per 10,000 voters? Yeah, and, that's okay. And they're surrounded throughout the county. So you consolidate neighborhood precincts, you put voter centers in around the county, but voters now can vote anywhere in the county. So you don't have to rush home on election day to cast your vote at that neighborhood precinct. You can vote in person. You could bring your ballot to a drop box, which will be situated throughout the county, and you can also drop it in the snail mail, the U.S. mail. And that gives an opportunity for people to not be limited to just Wednesday of voting, because vote centers now will be open for 11 days. So it's election day plus 10 days. They'll have extended, so you'll have an opportunity to vote for 11 days before the election. And we provide ballots in the mail to every voter in the county. So beginning next year, you will get your ballot in the mail, whether you request it or not, but you have your choice. That's the C in Voters' Choice Act, the choice of how to return it. By U.S. mail, by drop box, that will be scattered throughout the county, or in person at a vote center. And so I know it's very important for people to have community and feel that they are part of something on election day, so we're not taking away that option for you. But what we found are that the 5 counties, Nevada, Sacramento, San Mateo, Napa, and Madera County, had double-digit increased voter participation by double digits over the statewide average. So you really see an increase in voter turnout by these 8 counties, because these voters are engaged because they get a ballot and they're like, oh yeah, I need to vote, and it's sitting on their counter, I need to vote, they're getting all the information from campaigns, remember to vote, remember to vote, remember to vote, and they have no excuse, that ballot's sitting there in their hands. And so they can return it for 11 days before the election. So this is something that's a great opportunity for all of you in this room to partner with the Registrar of Voters and work on voter engagement, voter turnout, and also vote centers. So if you have any questions, I look forward to your questions. Thank you. Sure. I know how to use it quicker.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Okay, good.
I'm Shannon Boucher with the Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters, and I'm going to repeat some of the information in my presentation that Tamara talked about, because I think it's important to start understanding these basic aspects of this new voting model we have in Santa Clara County. So thank you all for coming today to our Women's Leadership Group. This is awesome. And so I'm going to go over some bits about the new voting model. Spattered in there will be some benefits for the voters and how you can participate in this historic change. Because what you're going to hear from me is we need your help. The voters need your help. You know, we have to get the word out into the communities, and we need our community-based organizations and everyone to assist the voters, especially in our underrepresented communities. So as Tamara Thank you. Sorry about that. So as Tamara said, this was Senate Bill 450 in 2016 called the Voters' Choice Act. Basically, it changed your polling place model that you're familiar with to a new, more modern and convenient model called the Voters' Choice Act, where you have vote centers. And the Registrar of Voters, we brought this option of changing our vote model to our Board of Supervisors in March and April, and at that April 9th board meeting, so almost a month ago, the Board of Supervisors passed and approved moving to the new vote center model. And with that, it is going to begin in March of 2020. So this is really the beginning of our transformation efforts, meeting with groups and communities. Tomorrow we're going to meet with over 54 organizations at a luncheon to talk about the needs, how they can help the community also. So yeah, we're really hoping with this new vote center model to have more participation from our voters and providing more services with this model, which I'll touch on a few of those now in this presentation. Where am I supposed to? Okay. As Tamara said, with the Voters' Choice Act, one of the first things is all voters are going to automatically be mailed a ballot. So a voter no longer has to request a ballot. Currently, you have to send in a form, your signature, and request to become a permanent vote-by-mail voter. All of that is done. You don't need to do that anymore because we're automatically going to mail you a ballot. 75% of our county is already a permanent registered voter, so it's really talking about the 25% more, and about 20 to 18% of voters actually go to polling places that we'll be also focusing on. So again, they have many options to return their ballot. They can return it by mail. They can return it at a drop box. Some of you may already be familiar with our drop boxes because in our last countywide elections, many of them, we've had 50 of those already. We were a leader in this state in doing drop boxes years ago and just built that up. So we're really familiar with those. Excuse me. And under the new Voters' Choice Act, we'll have about 75 approximately, so we will increase that. And last, in addition to drop boxes, they can drop it off at any vote center in the county, kind of like you can now at any polling place. So we're going to have approximately 120 vote centers located in Santa Clara County. This number is an estimate. Sometimes you might hear say 110, 125. I just want you to understand it's because it's based on the number of registered voters in the county. Where in the beginning you have some that are 50,000 voters, so we have about 20 vote centers opening, and then you bring on another 100 vote centers, and that's when we're down to 1 per 10,000. So the number may vary depending on the registration. And again, these vote centers will replace our polling places, but they're going to be larger than our polling places. They need to be bigger to handle the more customers that we're voters we're going to have come in, and because there's few of them, they're bigger and actually provide more services. These services that the vote centers can handle, like replacing a ballot, updating your voter registration, getting language assistance, and conditional voter registration. So these are all things that you can only really kind of all in total do at the Registrar of Voters office before, but now you can do them at the vote center. So it's really good if you're like North, South County, you don't have to come to our office anymore. So in addition to changing our voting model, we are also modernizing our voting equipment. We are ripping the Band-Aid off and changing the voting model, changing paper rosters to electronic poll books, changing the voting system, so we're doing everything, huh? I'm yay, freak out. So, and the another technology, yeah, we're having fun with technology, is ballot on demand printers. Those are key to vote centers, and I'll tell you why. So, the ballot on demand printers, basically think of like, well, now they're copier size. The ones we're going to be purchasing are more like a desk printer size. It'd be great. We can actually cart them around easier. But what those ballot on demand printers do is allow you to print a ballot on demand. Good name, huh? I mean, ballot on demand printers, BOD printers as we call them. But that is key. You go to a polling place, 849 polling places in November of 2018. You had your one ballot type. So we have hundreds to thousands of different ballot types in our different languages. So, you know, you were assigned your one polling place, and that's where you went, and your ballot type number 134, and we have our English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese languages. But now, you go to a vote center, and now I just say, computer, oh, give me 134 in Chinese. Give me 201 in Tagalog. And it prints on demand. I mean, that's the only way that we're able to do this. It makes that possible. So, again, they're not limited to their one polling place, and now they can go anywhere. So, really, like, say you're out on the weekend doing errands. Oh, I just drove by the community center, the library. I'm here returning. You mean you're open for voting? Yeah, you can vote. I could be living in South County, and I'm at Palo Alto Shopping Mall Center, whatever. And, you know, I decide there's a vote center, I want to vote. Because you don't have to go back to buy your house anymore. It's also a benefit if you work, and you might not have as much time. You're trying to race to your local neighborhood polling place by where you live. You've got to get to work, or you get home in time. Well, now there's one down the street from your work. You just go vote on your lunch. So there's just so many benefits with that. In addition to these locations, there are more days to vote in your community. And like I said, they're out in your community, not coming just to our office to get any ballot type. As Tamara said, this gets confusing when I try to explain this sometimes. we're staggering the implementation. There's like 2 phases. There's your 1 per 50,000 registered voter vote center, which will be about 20 for a million, that is spread throughout the county beginning 10 days before election day, right? So it's 11 days total that those 20 are open. But at 3 days before election day on that Saturday, when voting picks up even more, we're going to add in another 100 vote centers, because now we're doing 1 per 10,000 registered voters. So just got to know that some are open 10 days and then all of them are open for 4 days. But we will put lists, we'll send the list to the voters, we'll put them on our website, they'll be everywhere about those. So we really need to, in your mind, change, and if you could help us change the voter's mind from, oh, it's election day. No, it's election week. It's more than a week. Get out there and vote early, and I think it's going to take time. You know, voters are used to, I go on my Tuesday, that's my day. But now we need them out there, you know, go a week ahead, go 10 days ahead. No lines, you know, you don't save it all for election day, but it's going to take them some time, I think, to get used to it. So, conditional voter registration. This is the key and another major benefit that is going to help our underrepresented communities, our students, our first-time voters. Conditional voter registration basically allows you to register and vote provisionally on the same day. So this is a new law that just came into effect in the beginning of 2017. So really it was 2018 that we did countywide elections that people had heard of it and were getting used to it, but they all came on that last day and there was long lines on election day at our office. But anyway, so we still have our normal 15-day close of registration. If you, the law still has that. You register by that date. You're going to get mailed all of your voting materials, right? You want, you know, the sample ballot or county voter information guide, as we call it now, the new name from a couple of years ago. So you get all of your information, and you know more ahead of time. But so beginning the next day, 14 days before any election, the conditional, as we call it CVR, it's a little easier to say, kicks in, and now, you know, oh, I didn't register, someone just moved in, whatever it may be that they didn't get it done in the time of the 15-day, they can go register. That's major, major. It's going to be major on our college campuses and students who, come on, we're all busy, but students sometimes seem to forget or, you know, procrastinate, and now they can come in and register. So it'd be great. Okay, another component of the Voters' Choice Act is the Election Administration Plan. We will be putting together an election administration plan that has different components about vote centers, how we're going to do our outreach. We've done with different communities. And in that, we're going to be seeking input from the community, from the groups, from Youth Today. Well, not only Youth Today, I don't have that ready, but overall, into our plans. We want to hear what the community has to say. We want you involved, and we want your input. So that is a group that we have still in the beginning processes. As I said, this just passed 4 weeks ago, to set up those meeting dates, and we will put notices out into the public and on our webpage. But there are other ways to participate, and we have established 2 new committees. Well, we're in the process of establishing 2 new committees, a Language Accessibility Advisory Committee, or a LAC, a Voter Accessibility Advisory Committee, or a VAC. Those 2 are required by the Voters' Choice to implement. The LAC will assist us with input regarding language services, translated materials in accessible format, and presentations in multiple languages. The VAC will help us with our accessibility needs, like communities, disabled communities, senior communities, to make things more accessible. Now, in addition, it's not required by law, but we wanted to create yet another committee, coalition, our VOC, our Voter Education and Outreach Coalition. And that one, I think many of you, I'm hoping, if I could have all of you come, that'd be great. But keep these three in mind. But in this VOC, that's where we really need your help getting the word out to the voters. Our office staff can't, reach every voter personally, even though we will be doing 2 mailings, but more like a presentation in groups. What we really need from you, I'm begging for your assistance, because we need to be able to come to your meetings. We want to go into the community with you. We don't want to say, everybody come to 1555 Burger Drive, and there's only one place in the middle of the county. We want to come out to your group. We want to come to your church and do a presentation. We want to come to your committee meetings, your monthly meetings. So we come to you. The other hope out of this is like a trainer. We would like to train some members of your group who then can go and do this, for example, this kind of exact same presentation out at your own meetings. Oh, 1 minute. Okay. Hurry up. Okay. So we're still in the process of putting these together, but as of yesterday, we have our, I have a more 30 seconds. A new email, voters choice at rov.sccgov.org. So you can email that, and then we can disseminate out who you need to speak to and where we can help you. In addition to that, we need assistance finding vote centers. We have a map on the back wall there of the county with some of the major streets to give you an idea. To maybe give you a visual so you can think about your area and what you may know that's large enough. We have difficulty finding appropriate centers, or they cost too much. People want to charge us $4,000 a day. I can't afford that kind of thing. Okay. And, so we actually have a brand new, hot off the press that has been handed out or will be handed out. Interest card. I know it's a little small, when the people make the next one a little bigger, but you can write on the back. And so we're really looking to get your contact information, your email addresses. You could write down any ideas for vote centers, but we're looking at libraries, community centers, those kind of things. But I'm really hoping, like, say your organization or the Elks Club or somebody has a big meeting room that we can do it. I'm almost there. And then we're also handing out a little flyer about the different ways to vote in person and reminding you of those committees.
So Shannon, if I could,
Yep.
folks, I just wanted, the reason I actually asked for the map, because when people talk about, oh, don't you mean Southwest, all I hear is blah, blah. So what I wanted to give you all an opportunity to do was literally to be able to find where you live and think about places that you know. And it could be a community center, but also if you have a nonprofit partner or an organization that you know they've got a meeting room maybe they're not using all the time. And Shannon, real quickly, some of those rooms need to be secured, right? Like they need to have your capacity. Okay, so what we're thinking about are places that can be locked and safe, right? So that ballots can be safe, or whatever materials are in there can't be, the Russians can't get in, I'm kidding. Well, I'm kind of not kidding, actually. But anyway, so today, but before you leave, if everybody could just take a moment, if you don't have a place that you want to suggest right on here, go take a look, and it might actually help you find or help you think about a location that we should be looking at. I know we have some elected officials here, and I know that we're looking to partner with our other community partners that, again, have facilities that are locked, so if you can give some thought to that. And Shannon, you look like you were going to show us something else. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We do have a flyer. Did we hand those out, or we just have a couple?
With a few.
Okay. It's like our main requirements. We're looking for a 60 by 60.
Oh, great.
ADA accessible, etc. But we can answer any of those too at that voters outreach email, and For example, they had a meeting today at 3 I had to miss because I was coming here with the city of San Jose about all their facilities. Things like that, the cities and your groups and yes.
And not to be Captain Obvious, but let's make sure we talk to our own county libraries.
I've already been
Yeah.
in
Because you know, when I was
contact
in
with
one of
county-
theirs, I was like, these are nice digs.
Well, county facilities, we're already checking out anything they have. So the thing is, it can be difficult because, you know, a lot of these venues stuff were booked and we're, you know, trying to book. Oh, it's been a year.
So Joe, I guess the point I would just make about that is that something that may seem obvious to you because you know you're part of the community may not be obvious to us. And so let's take a look at that. And that could even be, you guys, if you see there's some strip malls that are in the process of being redone, those are really worth taking a look at. So if you just want to grab a name and then shoot it over to us, that would be great. And I want to ask a permission question. Everybody signed in here today. Is it okay if we just share that information with the registrar and just assume support, assume help? Is that all right with you? That we can send that to you too. That way we don't, because you can fill those out, but we're going to give them your name anyway. All right. So I want to make sure we have time for questions. So does anybody have any questions? These are big changes, and I'm going to go to Norma, and then we're going to come around. Thank you.
I have one quick question, and you did an excellent job on your presentation, but I'm a little confused on you say you still have the deadline to register the 15-day, yet at the same time you have the same day registration. So I just want to know, when you have the same day registration with the provisional ballot, how do we count those if they miss the 15-day? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I found it a little ambiguous to me.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you. This is my first presentation on BCA, so I'll take that feedback. If you have any other feedback, let me know too. Yes, it's 15-day cutoff is what the term has been before for registration. That continues, but this new law with conditional voter registration begins the next day. So, I know it is kind of confusing to explain.
Well, because some counties don't have VCA, so you still need the cutoff in order to send materials out to the voters.
Yeah, like I was saying, if you do register by the 15th day, you're getting all your materials in the mail. So then you can come in after though and do conditional voter registration. What we're going to do is you're going to fill out an envelope, put your ballot inside the envelope, and register at the same time, and then we will take it back to our office, process your registration, and count it. But you won't be getting materials in
So
the mail.
if I can just make it, tell me if this isn't basic enough. So if you register to vote, we're using the 15-day cutoff. That way the registrar has time to mail you materials. But if you're doing same-day registration, you don't need that 15 days because we don't have to worry about giving you material because you're right in the moment you're taking the action. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. All right. Ms. Crispin, you had a comment? A question?
I have a couple of clarifying questions. So all the vote centers will be open 4 days before, correct?
Yes.
So that means they'll be open on the weekend now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And then the conditionally register and vote provisionally on the same day includes election day itself?
Yes.
Okay, and then one more question. Will you be asking for volunteer workers the same way you used to have poll workers? But at the vote centers, or will they be like trained county staff?
We are going to have a combination. We will have now extra help employees as a county employee, and we will have a smaller portion of election officers that are by stipend volunteer pay. Yes, so we will have both.
Those are excellent questions. Other questions? Yes.
Okay, so I have a question about the outreach for the Voters' Choice Act, because I know a lot of the people in my community specifically, especially the teenagers, the parents are immigrants and aren't citizens, so it's kind of like the children are the first people that will be like voting in the United States. So I was wondering how you all are going to do the outreach, especially to the youth communities and immigrant communities. Would that be up to like the coalitions and committees that you mentioned before, or are there any plans that you have now for this kind of outreach?
It is going to be a combination of our office and the community groups. And these are the plans that we're continuing to put together over the next several months. We currently work with some of the high schools. Part of the working group that I'm going to be talking about shortly, one of our items is about doing juniors in high school, getting all 62 high schools and giving a presentation. And we do have bilingual staff that can go out and do bilingual presentations. So it's going to be a combination, and all of the fine details, we're still working that out over the summer. Yeah.
That's why also it's important for the organization that you represent to be involved with the lab.
Because we need help.
Yeah.
We need your ideas and your thoughts.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to take 2 more questions. I just want to say why. We have 2 big actions we need to take as a community tonight, and I want to make sure we get to those. So 2 more. Is there anybody else on the committee before I go to the public? Yes, Sarah. No.
This is a question about the VOC, which I told about the Voter Education and Outreach Coalition. Just clarifying that if I feel that I am a strong presenter and you train me on the materials you just presented, then I could be kind of like that spokeswoman for, like, say, the LGBTQIA+ community and be able to talk about what was just presented. Is that correct?
That is correct. We want to train people to go out into their communities and their groups, that we would love it. I think we need to have a term like you could be an ambassador.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah.
That excites me.
You're our first ambassador.
All right, that's your answer. I was like, pick me. All right.
Well, we probably don't have time to go into this, but I was curious about the discussion around voter fraud and all of these changes and the fears that people might have about all these different changes. And is education outreach going to address these issues of voter fraud?
Let me give you the short version now. Yes, you don't need to worry about voter fraud with the new system. These electronic poll books, remember your paper roster when you go to a polling place and you sign in? It's going to be a tablet now. We're going to have access to our database. So if you come in, you sign in, you check in here in this center, which would be a great vote center, and we give you a ballot, and you 5 minutes later you try to go next door, the next vote center, they're going to pull up and it is already going to show that you voted. We can see that you've been issued a vote by mail ballot. We can see, if you come in, I didn't return my ballot, I want to vote. We look it up, yep, you're correct, you haven't returned your ballot, we'll let you vote. So there's no increase to any issues, the lack of actual fraud that we have in our county. So I do not foresee any issues with that.
But let me, if I could just answer that, I think Shannon's right, but we live in an era where we have to be worried about all of our systems being hacked. And so let me just say 2 things. One, Supervisor Simitian has done a phenomenal job of working with the Registrar of Voters. In fact, I would actually argue that we are really prepared to be able to respond to, and we've taken precautions to impede the ability of people to hack our voting systems. The second thing that I would just add is that the point that Shannon raised about having the paper ballots is really critical, because the only way you can actually count ballots and verify the ballots is if in fact you have a paper trail, and that's part of the reason that the voter machines that we are bringing on in particular have that capacity. And it's actually a big problem that they have in Florida. They have a lot of problems in Florida, but that is one of them. And then the last thing I would just say is that I think we are in a different era right now, and that how we use this new mechanisms for voting, we have to use as a way to enhance our ability to protect the integrity of the entire system. And one of the things that the federal government is doing is, under the leadership of people like Zoe Lofgren, is a bill called HR 1 that's intended to give counties across the nation the resources to be able to buy the kind of machines that we bought. In partnership with the state of California is how we were able to invest. California is a little bit ahead of other places in the country, but part of the reason we're working on this is exactly the issue you raised. Let's give them a round of applause and say thank you. I'm going to really encourage you as we have our options to go write your special place up on that list back there and use the map if you can. I really did request it because I was concerned about directions. Yeah, fill out your card so Shannon doesn't just chase you, because she will. So I'm going to talk through the rest of the agenda real quick and get your input on proceeding. So we have item 7B, and this is to talk a little bit about the events we're going to use to celebrate the 2020, the event that we're all focused on. We're going to do some group discussions around particular areas that we're all working on. We want to give you a chance to do some small groups and be able to learn more about each other's work and be able to help each other. And then we're going to do a reconvene from that with some highlights. The reason it's important that we do all of that, I want to get a very broad sense on item 10 of the kinds of activities you think we should be funding. Now, we're not asking any of you to vote on funding tonight for two reasons. One, if you're part of a nonprofit and you vote on something, then your nonprofit can't apply, and we just don't want to create any conflicts for anybody. But the other is that if you're on a board, we just didn't want to have the conflict issue, but we do want to talk about this from a capacity issue. It's really critical we do, because we're going into budget hearings on Monday. So let me emphasize that. Monday. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a very short amount of time to make a request, and that's item 7B. I'm just going to try to buy us a little bit of time so that we have this bigger, chunkier time for recess discussions. Then we're going to reconvene. I'm going to ask everybody who's doing report outs to be really focused, and then we're going to take the last 15 minutes to strategize around budget. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So let me just take item 7B and say what the purpose of this item is. So you may recall that the reason we got the committee together as early as we did is we wanted to be able to hit the ground running this August for, to be able to start the event so that they go for a year instead of one day, right? So what that means is that in August of this year, we're going to need to get started with some sort of event that kicks off the beginning of this year. That event, what I would like to do is ask for your all feedback and permission to be able to do a kickoff event in August of 2019, because we want to get everybody going. It's actually, we have National Night Out, we got a lot of stuff that are going on there. So what we want to do is that since we're not meeting until September, I'm really asking for you all to say you're okay with us, my office, working with the Office of Women's Policy, working with the event committee. Sharon, are you the chair of that committee?
No, co-chair.
Oh, co-chair, okay. So that we would work with the committee co-chairs to get that event just kicked off. And we could take a couple of minutes now to brainstorm those, or as you meet in the small groups and you're focused on the engagement work, just to give some feedback about what you'd like to do. And I think it may make sense to give feedback in the small groups, do the report out, because really, in some respects, it could be a budget item or not, and I just won't know till I hear all your ideas, and I think the better way to get them is in those small groups. But really, the most important thing, are you comfortable with the committee, the Office of Women's Policy, and my office coordinating that kickoff event? Okay, good. Any concerns? Like you're like, no, I want to. Okay, because you can also join the committee. That's also a way to stay involved in that. All right. Well, seeing that, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move on then to item 8, and this is they're going to lay the groundwork, and Carla's going to start us off. They're going to lay the groundwork for a brief set of introductions so that we can break out into small groups. Then we're going to do a report out. Then we're going to talk about our priorities for funding. Okay? Carla, you're going to get us started?
Yes, I am.
All right.
So we have 4 Women's Equality 2020 working groups. We have Centennial Planning, Census, Voter Engagement, and Youth Engagement. And what we're each going to do is give you a kind of a high-level idea of what we've been working on the last few months. For the Centennial Planning, and we hope that everyone will make the rounds to go over there, we are hoping to kick off August 26th, which is Women's Equality Day 2019, We're working on a Women's Equality 2020 mini grant program where members of the community, campus clubs, neighborhood associations, all kinds of small groups who want to do something to commemorate women's equality and the 100th anniversary, you can apply for a mini grant, maybe $200 up to maybe $2,000. We're working on all those parameters so that in 2020 they can have an event. And what we'd love to see are hundreds of events around the county. What we are picturing is 2020 being a year-long celebration with two big events, most likely in March for Women's History Month, and then again in August for the actual 100th anniversary. So we have a subcommittee that is working on mini grants. We have a subcommittee that is working on the actual big events. And then we have a subcommittee that's working on K through 12 engagement. They're looking at and exploring contests for elementary, middle, and high school students to celebrate the anniversary. And we also have Girl Scouts at the table, which is developing a patch and a project and will be at all the events as well. We are planning to have a Women's Equality 2020 website, which should be live by the next meeting, that can capture all the different activities for everyone. And then our last subcommittee is looking at developing county and community partnerships so that groups that are already meeting and doing things can figure out how they can support Women's Equality 2020. So when you go to our committee group, which will be over here, you can add information, give us feedback, see if we're on track with those things, but that's overall what the committee's working on. Next, and Sharon, who's supposed to be standing right next to me, has been working very hard on this with our committee. Next we have Dr. Dewan, who will talk about youth engagement.
So our youth engagement group is really focused on organizing and creating the context for youth to be authentically engaged in the Women's Equality 2020 initiative. We have three beginning subgroups. We're going to work very specifically on certain areas. And generally our ideas are to develop some toolkits for action. So it'll be information that can be readily put in the hands of those who work with youth so they can use them in whatever setting youth may be in, including in classrooms or out-of-school time activities. We're also working on a subgroup that will be doing some asset mapping so we can get a sense of all the different types of youth groups that exist, both at school sites and in the community. So one, we can see where there may be some gaps and youth who might not be engaged, as well as to maybe direct some resources to those places where youth may not have as many opportunities to be engaged, but then also to ensure access to our toolkits. We're also very interested in having a very youth-focused event, a big celebration. Our proposal is to have that gathering in May of 2020, and we would be engaging with youth leaders to work with the group to plan the event. And so we see a lot of big activities, some tabling, and hearing from youth about Women's Equality 2020. We also think it's important to have layers of activities around youth voter education and voter registration. So there are some activities that are part of some of the other groups, but we see a big need to expand that because we know that youth are least likely to vote of all of the groups, all of the age groups. And we think there's a huge need because the state is going to be launching an opportunity to earn a seal of civic engagement on high school diplomas. And we want to create a pathway that youth will be eligible for that. And there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built to make that happen. And then lastly, to develop and implement some youth outreach. And to get that started, we think we need to work with adults to help them understand youth engagement and also get their ideas. And we'll be launching, to get that going, some tweet chats. And we'll have the information in the flyers about that. So how we use social media to engage all of those who would have access to youth and authentic youth engagement.
We'll be right over here.
And I'll be over here.
Yes. Now we have Rebecca Carr to talk about our census committee and the work that's happening there.
Thank you, Carla.
And we go.
Good evening, everyone.
everybody. Is it evening? Is it okay to say that? Okay, great. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Monica, and this is my colleague Miguel. We're here from the Office of the Census, and we'd like to thank everybody for having us here and thank the Office of Women's Policy and the Women's Equality Leadership Council for the invitation to partner. We're really looking forward to the next year and a half of census outreach, as well as all the voter engagement and everything else that's happening in 2020. The census work group has been small but mighty. We've been really excited about the things that have been discussed. We had a really great conversation about a month ago about which populations we thought we would like to target, because we figured, yes, it'd be great to get everybody, but maybe we should really hone in and focus on a few specific populations of women. So the three that were brought to the table were single mothers, low-wage workers, and older adult females. So that was something that we had discussed about a month ago, and we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on that, as well as any other potential ideas that you have. The idea was that these populations might respond to the census questionnaire, but would need or might need some additional assistance or encouragement, and that's where the focus would be. Over the next couple months, the committee will be helping us on messaging for these populations, as well as potential specific FAQs, and then after that they'll be working on a draft outreach plan to implement for the next year and a half. So I think that's it. Miguel, is there anything else? Great. Hopefully I didn't go over my time. Thank you.
And then, thank you. And last but not least, we have Shannon back to talk about voter engagement committee work.
I'll make up some of the time I took earlier. Oh, just real quick, can everyone in the registrar of voters of my wonderful ROV family raise your hand, please? Just so you all can see who we are, because that way you can come up to us after, ask us about vote centers, or ask us any questions. So on the voter engagement working group, we have been meeting, and actually the attendance is very low. We only have a couple people that are coming outside of our staff, so I'm still looking for members. Encourage you, if you're interested, to go ahead and come to these meetings. We're looking at several items that include doing Women's Equality 2020 Train the Trainer events. Like we were thinking of doing a couple of them, one in the summer, one in the fall, about like the voter VCA, outreach presentation that Sarah was talking about. Let us train you on how to register people. Let us come out, we'll host a train the trainer so that you then, you carry those registration cards like me in your trunk. Do you need to register? I got one right there for you. That kind of thing. So we want to go over that and teach you how to tell them to fill out the form, make sure you're reviewing for the mandated information so that the registration goes through right off the bat and it is complete. So we're looking at train the trainer events. Another item working with is the youth voter education and registration also, and that is our group working in partnership with the League of Women Voters and with the County Board of Education. Thank you. The goal is to have a presentation for every junior in the high school, and I learned there are 62 high schools in our county. Our office has gone to many of them, but not all 62 in 1 year. So that is a great goal to help spread out and actually not just go there to register them, go to their class and come in the class, get them registered, tell them about how easy it is, even pre-registration. Remember, 16, 17-year-olds can now pre-register. And the third idea is a centennial postcard campaign. One of our members had a great idea and had been involved with a postcard campaign in the past. Just, handwritten note, we get volunteers, we can produce if you need money for postcards, so that we can just write a little note. Just remember to vote. We're not partisan, we don't care what you are, what age you are. We just want to send that reminder to make them want to get out and vote. So those are the main three topics that we're looking at for goals. Yes.
I'm gonna ask real quickly. So voter engagement is gonna be
In the back.
back here, and then this is the 2020 program? Oh, the Centennial, yeah, so our Centennial, and then where were the other two groups? Oh, Census, perfect, oh, okay, Census and youth engagement. Okay, so Marianne is youth, she's a youth, and Julie, we're going to meet with you, Julia, right over here. Efforts. Everybody know where they're going? Okay, so what I want to ask is if you can go to the area you're closest to, we're going to give you 5 minutes. We're going to kind of whistle, so go take a look around. And the goal is to get you 5 minutes in front of each, and then we're going to meet back here, okay? And then you guys think of your top 3 things you think we should be investing money in. Top 3. Thank you.
Sit in the middle of the room. Do you want, or do you want me to stay here and get these?
Are we supposed to be stacking pieces of paper? Okay. Is there any on that chair right there? I can put some on that chair. Pull this out. They're yours. Yep.
No, I'm just going to be doing that. And that's at 30. No, I mean, I realize that I should have been doing this frankly all my life.
Attention, we have 2 more minutes per group, so 2 more minutes.
You mean today? Okay, good. I left, I had to go to a meeting at the sheriff's office.
Making sure people know more about get input and get them out on time. About 30 minutes.
Well, there'll be a resolutions committee. Oh yeah, there'll be a resolutions committee meeting to go over them. The resolutions committee will get all the resolutions nailed in advance. Do you have a copy of it? Can you send it to me? Let me take a look at it. Sometimes a resolution is like audited, and at other times people go, well, we've already done this, you know, so it's a repeat of a principle of parts or the resolution. What's the resolution? Well, one is
1 more minute, so please start wrapping up. 1 more minute.
That can't be too big, so that's a good possibility too, especially if it's something that maybe has come up recently and the resolution content is a reaction to it. So if there are others, they always will combine them.
So like here, they could publish a list of these resolutions at this time. How do you know?
30 seconds.
Well, they do them all
30 seconds.
It's a hell of a long Well, I mean, I haven't done it. I'm no longer involved in it, but we would start at 2 and we'd go till 10. Yeah. Well, they separate. I mean, they don't really necessarily know because things will get.
Time's up, so please start rotating clockwise, please. Rotate, 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 rotate. Time's up. Yeah, clockwise, clockwise.
That's what you're doing that day. Generally, though, the day of the convention, you do them on a Friday, and then you come back on a Saturday to prioritize. So that's another point. It's not enough for them to say, well, I like it. They will only bring forward the top 10. That's the way we used to do it. But then at the next e-board, all the ones that were said we accepted that didn't get rated in the top 10 almost automatically. So if your thing is, I gotta have this by, this is May, by July, that can be a factor, but it's better if it's not. It's better if it's like a longer scope issue. No, but you do need to be there if it gets rated as acceptable. You don't have to come the next day and, I mean, you lobby people. So if you know people on the committee, if it got passed at the central committee, that's a good sign. It's not a bad sign, it's a good sign. Because people, know how to write them, and, if you submitted something and, people made little changes, recommendations, and you were good with that, that's good. Well, they're tough because there's ways to do it, and, 3 whereas is 2 resolves. Oh, you mean to submit it? Yeah. Yeah, that's actually better. I never learned how to cut and paste, so I'd always win because I help other people get them too. Oh, okay. And Kelly, she's a character. Well, she knows her way around too.
No, that's what we're missing.
But please, email them to me. In fact, I'll give you my personal email. So it's, a little bit. My other one's obviously not too much for politics. Well, I don't worry about that so much. Well, I was the co-chair, and they would you'd go through the dinners, not necessarily the after dinner stuff, but it took a fair amount of time.
2 minutes left. 2 minutes left.
Who put resolutions in, and I coached people and I consoled people who didn't have that pass because some people think that the resolution topic is so important that we shouldn't, that the others are less important. And I understand that, it's just called passion. Well, I mean, that's a good attitude because sometimes people have things like, I'm sure there'll be something on the census because the Supreme Court looks like it's going to put the question in, go the wrong way. So that, that really should be just like anything, your organizing doesn't stop if it's passed. Yeah, no, happy to do it.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
All different kind of people too, and some of them are, but it's all.
Will you know the first day if I talk to them whether or not they funded it into one group?
No, you won't know that until the end of the second day.
How are you? I see her here, I see her in San Francisco.
Oh, really? You get around?
Time's up, please rotate. Time's up, please rotate.
Well, they can never stop. She always came to county committee meetings and stuff. Political stuff.
Please rotate if you haven't done so already. Please rotate.
Yeah, let me know if you want to get together.
Or go to the legislature. Because that's the only way that they're letting it.
Well, is it the rule of the progressive caucus?
So they're supposed to be.
So the chair has to be
But it's like running a society.
It seems ironic.
It's like, this is the Progressive Party and you're running it like a secret society. Well, I'm waiting to get my secret handshake.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, when you get inside, then you can. Good. Yeah, so send it to me the next few days and I can get back to you. I mean, I'm just curious to see.
2 minutes. 2 minutes
House
left.
resolutions are online. You may know that, but you can take a look and see. It's been close here. I think they're segregated by subject, which you so you're up there with your And so you have two, one or two? Three.
Time's up, please rotate. Time's up, please rotate. Final word group, please.
I might cry, but other than that.
2 minutes left. 2 minutes left.
Round face. Yeah. We'll probably each text each other and then I don't know what thing. Please.
Thirty seconds left. 30 seconds left. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Please take your seat. Time's up.
What we're going to do is do some quick, really quick report outs. Like, we're going to need people to do this in 1 minute at a time. I know, I'm sorry, Sharon's like, I just got my chance. And mostly because I just want to be able to hear, I do want to have a more open discussion about what should we be investing in. Like that, I need your smarticles on that. Sharon, get us started. Everybody who's going to be speaking, line of five, Sharon.
Okay. Thank you. I was representing the Women's Equality Centennial Calendar. Oh my gosh, there are going to be celebrations across California, across the United States. What's going to make Santa Clara County's celebration different? Two things. We're going to get results and we're going to have action. And absolutely. And the ideas that are over there are wonderful. The ideas that we had never thought of in two ways. One, collaboration and partnership. So you have an event, we will be there. We also want to make sure that in every district there is a representation where we can take a panel to talk about the census, to talk about the registration, to talk about the youth engagement, and to talk about the history of this 19th Amendment, which represents the emancipation and empowerment of women. So hang on, we've got a lot of great things happening.
So we had a lot of great questions. I think the best question at the youth engagement group was, how are you defining youth? So I think it's important to answer that for everyone. We are talking about youth who are elementary school up to age 24. It's kind of how we're defining youth. And we got a lot of great recommendations about some underrepresented communities and some assurance about how we can reach them to make sure that their voice is heard. And we also talked about that this investment is a good one to make, and that if we do it right, it can live even beyond 2020, so all of you can benefit.
Okay, I can be short for once. So basically, over in the voter engagement group, we heard a lot of great ideas about other avenues and ways to do voter engagement and the social media and the tech banking and clinics. I mean, just a lot of ideas. I won't go into all of them. And we got some feedback and some more suggestions on what to do with the postcards. So we got a lot of great ideas, and we got some vote center information. I'll remind you to go look at the map after we're done. And our list will stay on the wall if you'd like to come look at it after you're done with this. Was that good?
That's perfect.
Okay. Yay!
For census, we got some great feedback on intersectionality of women and femme in our community, as well as some other groups that we can sort of focus on, immigrant mothers, and locations where the census message is best heard. We are gonna also be at almost all the events, and we're gonna try to be there. We also got feedback on some census messaging that could be very powerful to empower people to fill out the census form. You matter, your children count, we all count, and how to address the safety with the citizenship question.
So do you all feel more informed about what everybody's doing? Except the people I distracted, I apologize. So here are a couple things I want to ask you. Have you thought about what, we don't have a lot of money, but if we're going to invest in something, what should we be investing in? And I'm just going to kind of go around the room and see if anybody wants to put their hand up and say, here's what I think we should be investing in. Yeah, well, I guess what I want to do is like, what costs money that we should think about spending money on? And I'll just give an example. In the area of schools, like for colleges and schools in general, and even organizations, the idea that Carla raised was, you know, we do these mini grants, 200 to 2,500, so that organizations across the county can engage and the money's not a reason they're not able to do some event at their school or their place of worship, or, you know, I'm sure there's a separation of church and state, but of events out in the community. So that's one. Is there anything else where you think, you know, we ought to think about investing money in blah resources in order to get, you know, in order to get the work done? Yeah.
A lot of the groups were mentioning toolkits, and so I would like to see professional marketing and nice looking toolkits that make us look really legitimate.
That's a good one.
A very easy way to get a lot of 90-second sort of infomercials, public service announcements from a variety of different groups and get it spread, and which requires, you know, some backbone editing, professionalization to help out with.
Yeah, it really does keep those short ones. Anybody else? Nicole?
One thing I want to see, like, the county invest in is making a simplified version of the voter guide and making sure that it's available in multiple languages. So this would address like voting, making sure that like immigrants, they're able to vote, and the older population as well, so that they're able to take part in this as well, and also youth, and so this would really help everyone across the board.
Great, thank you.
You might have already done this, but to update the website, put some money in there.
Thank you.
Someone brought a good idea about over at voter engagement about increasing the amount of buses available, which kind of made me think that we should invent, or the county should have a public rideshare app, kind of like Uber and Lyft, but for the county.
Could we have free rides on public transportation during election week or some other days that is election day, like we do for Spread Air?
And someone suggested more buses, right?
Anybody else have any ideas?
What about like billboards and bus placards?
Billboards and bus placards.
You know, advocating campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Did you? Go ahead.
I was just thinking we could focus more on the communities that usually aren't engaged, so really putting a heavy focus on our outreach team, which I know we were talking about for the census over there.
Yeah. Shannon, no, you got a mic right behind you.
Like someone had mentioned the toolkits and swag, you know, the giveaways for this event in August and next year, and reminding them to vote or any of the ideas, but swag is always needed to draw people to the table or booth or that kind of thing.
Hi. We had talked about in one of our groups maybe using people who have as like social media influencers, who are those people out there with very large networks, and that people pay attention to.
And
And we were in Senator Jim Bill's office today in Sacramento, and he was talking about how San Jose does not have any buildings dedicated to any women. He was mentioning the Center for Performing Arts and how that should be Janet Gray Hayes, because she had a real affinity to the art community. And I'm wondering if what's behind that kind of campaign. I know that we have money going into a statue, which is maybe a long-term thing, but if there could be a campaign around that and just having that coincide with the 2020 centennial, it could be a sweet 1-2 punch on awareness about women in the county and their contributions.
That's great, thank you.
And that's actually a good segue to my ask. I don't recall if we ever discussed having some sort of celebratory event that we as a commission or committee host at the conclusion of this, but something to kind of, give us all a new way of doing this, and then also acknowledge the community and all of the work that we've all done with the community.
And we're gonna find out here who has the biggest house. We're gonna do a square footage thing. And I think it's Steve Parminger. So we're gonna do something at Steve's.
So someone mentioned something about marketing campaign, but I think it would be really good if we could, once we figure out who the speakers are going to be, and start creating a social media marketing campaign, email campaign, having certain topics where we start enticing our audience on what we'll be talking about, and with different speakers kind of leading up to the big day, so people really want to show if they're really interested in, we're educating them in the process.
Anything else on this side? I'll come back around. All right, Sarah.
Yeah, I love the energy right over there because it's tailing into what I want to talk about. There's a lot of amazing women leaders in this room. So, and the thing is that I don't know even half of your stories. So even just pulling the women in this room as a resource to do some kind of panel event, fireside chat, speaking engagements, just to let the community know that we are here. Maybe setting aside a little budget for like food to invite people in, having swag, like Shannon mentioned, and allowing us to like tell our stories on a more intimate level and invite the women and the allies into our space, I think would be great. So again, a celebration of the folks in this room, because I don't know half of your stories and I want to get to know more of you, so yeah.
Cindy, I think at the last meeting you had talked about that there was going to be a separate fund for public art and murals, is that correct? Okay, so we don't need to worry about that for our budget?
Well, let me tell you, so it's good that you asked that, and we are working on getting out an RFP or an RFQ to help us manage this pot of money. So what we have is $5 million from the board. $500,000 is for each district to be matched, but with local money. And and this is an opportunity, I think, to get name changes and parks and all those things. And then $2.5 million is to be matched for one very large project. And what we were hoping that would be is some sort of a gathering, really frankly, a space that when women wanted to do protests or actions or celebrations, that there was really a central place. That will be kicked off in the next few months. We're going to be hiring somebody to help us, and then we're going to be putting a committee together to work that. Now what I hope, and I think is really exciting, is that at some point we got to have a calendar that says here are all the benchmarks we're going to meet by X days, and that way this feels less amorphous. But yeah, we're working on that. Did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Just a quick follow-up. I was hoping that we could make sure that the districts and the cities looked at not just professional artists, but like street artists for murals or children's groups to do things as well, because we do want to hit those underrepresented populations.
You are talking to the right people that are running those programs. So yeah, that's right. I think that's right. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I have just one suggestion to follow up on social media.
That's yours and an on for something.
Oh, I forgot that. With sites of influencers is to buy some ads, Facebook ads, and social media campaigns.
So she was just saying to make sure we get some Facebook ads, and that we just go ahead and and this is a good point about investment, that really we buy them, and I hear what people are saying is do professional short clips and then push them out with paid media. Anything else you want to make sure we're thinking about? Yes.
One of the things that we've done in the past to like spread the word about domestic violence or something, for instance, is use radio ads and like Spanish radio stations, Vietnamese radio stations. So we're reaching a community that maybe isn't using social media or things like that.
Great, thank you. Those are excellent points. All right, we're going to take a couple more. Go ahead.
I think tying in Sarah's idea about making sure that the stories of like women leaders are being told, and tying in that idea with like social media campaigns and fundraising, is that we could put these stories on like an Instagram account or something and dedicate resources and making sure that this platform is available publicly to everyone, so that it's not so much you have to come to a place and get to know these people, but more so that you can look at this in your free time and say like, oh, these are the people that are advocating for my rights, and these are people that I know that like will care for my community and everything.
Yes, we're Kristen, and then we'll come right to you, Norman. You got the last word. Okay.
I'd like to provide stipends for people who are doing the ambassador work, especially if they're from marginalized communities or doing things like interpretation. I want to make sure that they're being paid for their labor. And also, I'd like to establish a scholarship fund for women to study policy or government.
I know we have to be very careful not to be political, but Cindy, you absolutely, your name should be out there because you were the first one in the United States of America to come up with this idea of getting a council like this together. And had you not done that, none of us would be here tonight. So I just want to say, how you can do it, the word has to get out.
Thank you. We're gonna get some good stuff done and some stuff built. That always makes me happy. So these were really, really helpful ideas. Thanks for brainstorming with us. The reason we're not prioritizing them or voting on them is we want to make sure you guys can apply for them. So let's not do that. We're gonna adjourn, and I do want to just ask two things before people leave. One, if you haven't written on your card locations that we can look at, please, please, please do that. That's really critical. And the second is that if you have ideas that you're processing, if you could just grab the leaders of these groups, and or if we have women that we should be engaging in any of these groups that you can help us think about, let's do that. I think that's just really important that we just keep reaching out. So let me just say big round of applause to the Office of Women's Policy. Carla, I'm really glad she doesn't sleep. To my staff, Victor and KT and Beth, let me thank you. You guys are just amazing. We're going to adjourn this meeting. We will meet at the Campbell Community Center September 11th at 4:30. But before that, I will see you in August for some sort of awesomeness. All right? Kicking us off. Thanks, everyone.